I'm Michael Plowgian. I'm a principal in the Washington National Tax Office of KPMG, specializing in international tax. Prior to joining KPMG, I was a senior advisor with the OECD on the BEPS project. So the BEPS project is really intended to address perceived weaknesses in the international tax rules, concerns that governments have about income that can disappear when you've got cross-border investment, and the ability to artificially shift profits into jurisdictions where it's taxed lightly or not at all, and where there's no real economic activity taking place. So the questions that the BEPS project is trying to address are really fundamental questions about when can a country tax a taxpayer, and if it can tax a taxpayer, how much of the profits of that taxpayer are really appropriate to allocate to that jurisdiction. Well, while the OECD is a non-governmental organization, it's actually made up of the top tax policy makers from the member jurisdictions who are at the table making these commitments as part of the BEPS project. And unlike the US, where when the administration makes a commitment, it often requires legislation that may or may not pass through Congress, for other countries, their political process works in such a way that when the administration makes a commitment, the legislature can and will enact the laws necessary to implement that commitment. So the BEPS project and recommendations really will impact the tax laws of a lot of jurisdictions. Well, the BEPS environment really raises three main types of tax risk. The first is enforcement risk. So tax administrations are taking much more aggressive positions around the world, raising a number of issues that have not necessarily been raised in the past, and corporations need to understand that and be prepared for those types of discussions. The second risk is really the risk of changes to the tax law. And these we'll see over the next few years as recommendations come out of the OECD and as countries change their laws to address the kinds of concerns that BEPS is intended to address. The third set of risks is really reputational risks. And this is important primarily for brands that are consumer-facing or companies that do a lot of business with governments, where that reputation is really a core part of the value that they provide. Well, country-by-country reporting requires a lot of information about a company's tax profile on a global basis, and really provides a snapshot of the tax planning and profile that a company has. This information is intended under the BEPS project to be kept confidential and used only by the tax administrations, but there is obviously a risk that the information could become public and could be seen in the media in ways that are unfavorable. Well, the most important thing that companies can do to manage reputational risk at this point is to really understand what's out there in terms of information about their tax profile and create a communication strategy that addresses those. So there's a lot of information available in the media, in SEC filings, and even in some tax reports about a company's tax characteristics. And understanding that information, anticipating the kinds of questions that you might get from the media or from other stakeholders is critical, and having buy-in from the C-suite and from the board about the tax risk strategy and the communication strategy is critical at this point. One of the things that I hear from taxpayers is that given that the US tax reform prospects do not look very good in the short term, they wonder whether they really need to worry about the BEPS project. I think it's important to understand that the BEPS project is an international effort that is going forward sort of regardless of whether the US moves forward with tax reform, and it will impact other countries' tax laws, raising the risk for increased source taxation for US multinationals in this environment.